What's up, guys? Today I'm interviewing Zam. He's a producer and mix engineer. He's actually releasing new tracks soon in a couple days. There's no concrete date yet, but expect to see it coming out sometime after this video. How are you doing today, Zam?
I'm doing good. How about yourself, man?
I'm doing good. So I want to start this interview off with a couple of lightning round questions to gauge, how much respect I have for you. So starting off, Nav, do you like him or not?
Do I like Nav?
Yes, Nav.
Dude, that's the boy. Hell yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So
Nav's
his
tight.
music for me is mediocre. It's fine. It's good. It's enjoyable. Him as a person and what he stands for is what I hate.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like his fans way overhype him.
Oh, that's real. No, that's real.
When people say he's the next Drake or he's like Drake level, I'm like no way.
No, that's delusional.
Okay. So we're on the same page. Okay. So,
I can fuck with his music ironically, but I can never really take him seriously as an artist.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
With that being said, Drake, do you think he's overrated, fairly rated, or underrated?
Fairly rated. I think Drake carried the music industry really heavily in the late 2000s and early 2010s.
Yeah.
And even now, he's still going super strong. He's like one of a kind in that sense.
Last question. Pineapple on pizza.
That's a yes for me. I love pineapple on pizza.
Okay, that's fair. Me personally, I actually don't like it, but I have nothing against it. If someone were to put pineapple on my pizza, I would eat it. But also at the same time, I would never ask for it myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that.
Okay, that was you answered correctly on all three, if that makes sense. So, first real question I wanted to ask you is, what made you want to be a producer, or what got you into making music in general?
I actually have a story about that. So,
please tell.
I started making music for the very first time when I was 16. I got hit up by a friend. My friend's name is Chris. Nobody would know him by this. It's like an alt name. And he hit me up because for him personally, his biggest influence at the time was a lot of local Maryland artists like Corday and Logic. Mm-hmm. And he always said, I want to learn how to rap, or I want to learn how to make music. Do you want to do it with me? And at the time, he wanted me to do it with him as a duo. I would be rapping with him. And we made 2 tracks and we released them. And me and him were both in high school at the time. So me being a little high school annoying kid, as soon as we finished it, I showed it to everybody. And everyone was like, it's good. Only problem is there's a mixing problem with it. The voices didn't really sound too good, and also we're using a pretty cheap mic. And at that point, I realized I'm a decent rapper, but at the same time, I definitely think I need to hone my skills producing and mixing. And at that point, that's when I really started to take off with producing and mixing, because I realized we needed that. So yeah, I started producing and mixing only because my friend asked me, not because I had any prior interest.
Okay, so you said that was when you were 16?
16, yeah. And then I started getting really into producing and mixing when I was probably right when I turned 18.
18. When you were getting into it, what would you say your process was?
Whenever I get focused on any subject, it doesn't even matter. Right now I'm getting really into VR and I love that a lot. But when I'm getting really into music production, I spend every ounce of my day watching videos on mixing tips, arrangement tips, the kind of plugins you should be using, the kind you should be avoiding and stuff like that. But when I actually get down into the DAW, the digital audio workstation, and I prefer FL Studio, when I get down into it, I like starting with my drums. Once I get a good rhythm going on whatever BPM I'm going for, I typically start with 90 BPM because I like slower tracks. I start with the drums, and then I'll lay out some melodics and some background chords. And then at that point, I'll have a nice 8-bar loop going. And then at that point, typically I have somebody in my studio with me, and then we'll just get a song going right there. The process for me personally when I'm producing a track isn't that long. I'll typically get a full produced track, not including mixing and mastering time, just getting it arranged and having the idea solidified within 2 to 3 hours. Sometimes I can, if I really feel I want to expand it more, let's say the first 4 to 8 bar loop just sounds like an intro, or it sounds like a build up towards a main something else. There's still another 2-3 hours that I have to make that other section. But let's say I finished the main part of the song in the 2-3 hours. Afterwards, I would have to get down into mixing and mastering coming way after mixing. And once I'm mixing, for me personally, I need complete silence.
Yeah.
Because if there's anything else in the room, it distracts me like way too much.
Hmm.
And there's been times where I literally had to tell people, like, listen, if you're gonna be on your phone, that's fine. Put some headphones in or just leave. I can't listen to all of that.
How do you pick instruments?
Whenever I'm just getting into the track, I have no preconceived instruments in mind. Typically, whenever I start with the drums, I can almost hear what I'm gonna put on it, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like, instead of visualizing it, I literally hear it. And if I try it and it doesn't really work out, I'll try something else that sounds similar to it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I don't even try and think of an instrument to be like, okay, I want this specific instrument on this. It's more so I just grab and pick stuff from many different places, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we'll try something else.
So my next question is, how is it like working with artists? Do you spend a lot of time working with them, or do you sort of send them the beat and then they give you the vocals, or how does that work?
Since right now we're still technically in a pandemic,
Yeah.
even though we're now more so on the outer end of it with people getting vaccinations and stuff. So I have a friend named Malik. I've known him for a very long time, and shout out to him. His name is Malik Tree on Twitter and everywhere else. Very good friend of mine, and he's a rapper, very good rapper as well. The first time that we worked together, we did it all over FaceTime, and I live produced the beat in front of him, and I made sure when I was producing it, how he wanted it to go, what he liked, what he did not like. And honestly, that was a very rare occurrence, because typically whenever I make a beat, I'll just get an email or I'll get a DM on Twitter like, yo, this beat right here, would you mind sending it to me? And I'll send you back some vocals, the same way I did with, Sinfinity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we did, where he just DM'd me. He was like, yo, this beat, can you send me it? And I'll send you some vocals back.
Yeah.
But whenever I do work with artists in the studio, it's honestly way more fun than just producing by myself, because whenever they start writing and I start hearing the songwriting coming together and I hear a full track coming together, it's really nice just hearing what I just produced out of just pure whim, just cause, and then they're like, yo, I really like this, and they want to finish a track with it, they finish a full song. It's a nice feeling.
Yeah, that's great. You said you were releasing a couple of new tracks. I was wondering, is that going to be like a project like how you had previously dropped, or is it just a couple of loose tracks?
Yeah, so the working title for it right now is The Time Capsule, and I had around 30 tracks finished for it already.
Oh, wow.
And I know 30 tracks sounds like a lot,
Yeah.
and it is a lot, not gonna lie, but each beat ranges from either 30 seconds to a minute 30, and the longest track on there is just 2 minutes long.
Yeah.
And that's because it's not even 2 minutes long, it's like a minute 35, and that's the track I made with Sinfinity. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, because it's honestly one of the best sounding things I've ever produced solely, like just the entire creative process coming in and out of me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Were all these done for the sole purpose of this project, or were some of them from before, some of them new?
Oh, that's a good question. So the most recent project I dropped was on Christmas. It's called Collective Thoughts.
Yeah.
And at that point, there's actually I think there's 5 tracks that I produced from before that project was released.
Okay.
But I went back very recently and I made sure the mixing and mastering was, up to par with what I'm currently producing now. But I think the majority of the tracks I actually produced in March and February. I produced a lot around my birthday, because that's when I was feeling really good, and I wanted to get some tracks out. But I ended up deciding to just keep them all in the vault and throw it into one big ass collective tracks.
Yeah, that makes sense. You started off producing before, and you said in 2018, and now you're about to release your new project at the beginning of 2021. How would you say COVID has affected your process or your beats, if it has at all? I
would say the way it's affected me the most is not getting full tracks completed with other artists, because prior to COVID, I definitely wasn't as big of a producer as I am now, and even though I'm still pretty small, back then I wasn't really hitting up to work with people, but now I get DMs with some regularity, which is still really surprising to me, whether it be on Twitter or Instagram, local Maryland artists are like, hey, yo, I'm trying to work with you, do you mind if we hit the studio? And every single time I ask, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't mind. However, me and you both need to get tested and need to share our results with one another if we're going to be in the same space. Yeah. And typically they're like, oh, never mind, then let's just wait until we both get vaccinated. And I'm like, okay, that's cool with me. But then it's from when we had that conversation was months ago. Yeah. And they haven't hit me up since. And it's like, it's just like potential tracks and potential people that I'm gonna have connections with that I kind of missed out on because of the fact that we can't link up so readily availably. You know, like it kind of sucks. But at the same time, I've produced a lot more during quarantine than I ever have prior.
So with that said, how big of a role has social media played? Because we met through Twitter. That's how this has happened right now because of social media. So how would you say social media has helped or hindered or just affected your beat making process?
I love how many people I've met on Twitter who produce and share the same passion with me. Speaking of which, there is one person, he goes by DJ Carhartt or Wayne. I'm not sure if you know who he is, but that is my boy. Honestly, if I never met him, I would not have pushed myself to become a better producer because there was a point prior to me meeting him where I was like somewhat complacent in the fact I'm like, oh, I'm actually think I'm getting pretty good. And the level I'm at right now, I'm happy with it. But once I heard the stuff that he was producing, even not even in like speaking on the mixing and mastering, but just the arrangement and how his beats are made, they're so impressive and they're so, I can tell that every 4-bar loop is not a loop. They're ever changing. And I really felt like at the time, I felt I'm not ashamed per se, but I was like, this is what my music should be. This is where I should be aspiring to go to. And not including the fact that I wanted to improve myself, but just the amount of cool people I've met on Twitter and on Instagram who just fuck with what I'm doing, and I fuck simultaneously with what they're doing. It's a really cool experience, just meeting new people that I otherwise never would.
So do you have any funny studio stories from, before COVID?
So there was a time when I was like pretty fresh into producing, and I had produced maybe like 20 beats up to that point. I definitely was getting better and better in each beat. I was seeing improvement. And I had a boy who was like, yo, I'm trying to come through to the studio. Could we get a track done together? And I was like, yeah, that's cool. Come through. And he was like, is it cool if I bring 2 people? And I was like, yeah, that's fine too. Come through, man. When he came through with 2 girls, and both the girls were very drunk. Like it was bad. So at this point, I was in a different place. I was in a rented out small room where pretty much all I had was my computer, my studio monitors, my actual monitor, mouse, keyboard, and like a couch so my guests could sit in. And maybe like 15 minutes into me producing a beat and him writing, she just throws up all over my studio.
Ooh,
like just all over the place. And when I tell you, I had to clean up some drunk girls throw up for like 30 minutes, man.
Oh no.
God. Yeah, after that point, I told him, I was like, listen, if you ever come back to my studio, don't bring anybody. Just bring yourself, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that was the funniest because the thing is, after she threw up, she just said, oh my God. And she grabbed her purse and just gave me $40. And I was like, okay.
Well,
yeah.
$40 to clean up 30 minutes worth of puke. That's not terrible.
Yeah, it's not that bad. Yeah. So I guess in a way it was a win-win.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
win-loss.
Because I don't think she won at all.
Yeah, no. It was...
But do you have any advice for fellow creatives? It doesn't necessarily have to be, for people who are already producing or new want to start producing. It can just be anyone who's, wanting to do an artistic endeavor.
Don't try too hard to get your stuff out there because the more that you push your content, the more backlash you're going to get because, at least for me personally and what I've perceived, is people who try and disregard the conversation at hand or try and disregard what people are feeling in turn to just push whatever content they're trying to make, oftentimes are just not going to get fucked with. You got to be you, and you got to make sure that when you're being you got to be your authentic you. You can't compromise to your surroundings so people feel like you're likable. Because once you do that, they know that like, oh, this is the kind of person that is just gonna conform to the general like stance of the people around them. I would say just be you and keep making what you're making, regardless of what others say. Because let's say you're not good now, and that's fine. Everybody started at a point where they kind of sucked, me included. If I were to listen to my music from 2018, I would be laughing, crying because it sounds bad. Yeah. And that's okay because the music I'm making now sounds a lot better. It damn near sounds professional. Just keep going with what you're doing and don't stop. Never stop creating art. Keep putting out your creative content out there. Keep being creative no matter what.
Yeah, that's what I would say. It's great advice. Very well put. I think a lot of people could actually benefit from hearing that. So thank you again to Zam for coming on to this interview and speaking on his experiences. Looking forward to your project coming out soon and hearing new music from you.
Yes, sir. It's good. Actually, so I was planning on releasing it on the 23rd of this month,
Yeah.
but I got suspended. So I'm planning on releasing it sometime in May, maybe around mid-May. So look forward to that.
Yeah, everyone look forward to that. I will link all his socials in the description. Make sure to check it out. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Later, guys.